Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Gold, Goats, and Guns Hour here on YouTube and Periscope. My name's Tom Luongo. It is Monday, August 12th, 2018. How was everybody this evening? I hope your weekends were well. Mine was good. Well, good. I'm not really sure how that works anymore. Mine was fine. I took a day off on Saturday for our monthly gaming extravaganza, which was a hoot, actually. Fuckman! All right, so sorry, have to say hello to all the peeps. Spent most of literally all day Saturday gaming, which was a lot of fun. Sophie and Camille actually went with us for the first time, and wound up playing Mage Knight for like 8 hours. That in and of itself was interesting. It was a game that I used to own that I actually sold. Because I could never get it to the table other than by myself, and I don't really play solo games. So we finally did a cooperative thing, and it was fun. It was a great game. I don't want to play it again for another year. For the two of you in the audience who would know exactly what I'm talking about, understand that the average board game anymore is targeted around 90 minutes. This was an 8-hour affair, and and they say Ameritrash games are long. All right. I'm mostly just wasting time until everybody shows up. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, and then Sunday I spent getting prepped for today. So that was my weekend. I hope yours was good. All right, so let's get started. Let's talk about the biggest news of the weekend, and I will get to your comment in a minute, Jen Johnson. I actually want to talk about that, but I don't know how much I have to say about it. So let's talk about the biggest news of the weekend, because really, beyond all that's happening in Turkey, which I've discussed kind of to death. I was on the Radio Sputnik this morning, I think with their flagship station, actually, for about 15 minutes. I haven't posted the link to the SoundCloud yet. I will. It'll be on goldgoatsandguns.com tomorrow morning, or maybe after I get done with this live stream. Probably right after I get done with this live stream. So, but that went well this morning. I got the chance to sit down and chat with them. They asked me some, questions about do I think the Turkish lira is going to continue to fall? Do I think and basically I did the 4-minute runaround from this is what's going on. This is so much, these are Turkey structural imbalances, and then within 2 minutes I got them all the way to, and we're gonna have a sovereign debt crisis in Europe, and Turkey is gonna leave NATO, and the poor woman on the other end on Sputnik was just kind of like, okay. It was kind of fun, and you guys know that I can do that in a very limited and short amount of time, that I can take you around the world in about 60 seconds and go, this is what's happening. And it was just kind of fun to do it for Sputnik. And that's the part of the thing that they excerpted and put it up on their website as well. So I got the 4-minute SoundCloud out of the 15-minute interview this morning, which was fun. So I got that call from them, I think, I don't know, 3 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. I'm like, no, I really can't do this today. Let's do this on Monday. So we did it this morning. But the big news of the weekend, not necessarily Turkey, or maybe the big news of the weekend is that Turkey refused to put on capital controls, or refused to ask the IMF for a bailout, or refused to back down from Trump. I'm not really sure what you want to consider the most significant part of the weekend, but to me, it was the signing of the treaty between the 5 nations that border the Caspian Sea. Little remarked really outside of Russian circles. It was noted actually on Seeking Alpha, of all things. So I got it from the Seeking Alpha global events email stream that I get sent to me, pushed to me every day, the global events thing. And this is significant. Okay, so the 5 nations that border the Caspian Sea are obviously Russia, Azerbaijan, Iran, Turkmenistan, and who's the 5th one? Kazakhstan. Right. Good evening, Victoria. How are you? And those 5 nations finally agreed after 20 years. They've been arguing about this, about, you know, what, but the rules for how to use the Caspian Sea. This has been going on for 20 years. They've been arguing about it. Mostly, from what I understand, it's been the Iranians that have been the stickler about changing things, about changing the rules. And I'm sure there's a reason for that. And that is that for most of the last 20 years, certainly Azerbaijan has been in the US's orbit, right? Up until very recently, really. And in some ways, Azerbaijan is still kind of in the US's orbit. But it's, you know, that relationship is changing. And I think that this agreement today kind of tells you, one, just how much Iran needs to have new trading partners, and that they need to have better relations with everybody across Central Asia. Moreover, and this is the most important part of it, no one's military outside of those 5 nations will be allowed in the Caspian Sea anymore. So there will be no U.S. proxy forces in the Caspian Sea. There will be no Chinese proxy forces in the Caspian Sea. That's a big deal. I mean, that's a big blow to kind of, you know, any more kind of hinky shit that we want to pull in that region to destabilize that region. I think it's very important. So it also sets up rules for oil exploration and exploitation. There's a tremendous amount of oil and gas under the Caspian Sea, fishing rights, just usage in general. And what I find interesting is how quickly this deal came together, in light of the fact that Trump and the Americans are pushing everybody, literally everyone across the planet, to make or break their relationship with Iran and Turkey now, and the EU in many ways, and all of it. So everything is changing very quickly, and frozen relationships or frozen conflicts or whatever you want to call them, they're all changing. It's like we couldn't get a deal on the Caspian Sea for over 20 years. Couldn't unfreeze Korea for 70 years. Right? There's a lot of change in the wind. And this is a big first step towards helping to get Eurasian integration underway. Because if these 5 countries can come together and end their conflicts over the use of the Caspian Sea, then they can really start to look at each other in different ways. And I think it's a great moment for that area of the world, because Central Asian integration and evolution, and the word I'm looking for, searching for, growth, I guess, for lack of a better term, is the key here. Okay, the whole area of the world has been nothing but a battleground for generations now. I mean, it really goes back to the Brits. You know, it's over 100. This is where, you know, we've been destabilizing that area between the Brits and the United States for over 150 years now. And so it's time for these countries to put their really minor differences together aside, and begin the process of normalizing relations, figuring out trading rules and all of that stuff, and begin to really respect and really begin to integrate and improve their relations and come out of the dark ages. And that growth will happen very quickly if we're removed from the scene. Okay, with the United States now talking to the Taliban about effectively peace talks, with the change in the guard in Pakistan, along with the group with Pakistan, China, Russia, Iran, India, opening up talks with the Kabul government and moderate forces within the Taliban in order to try and create some kind of peace framework, in order to try and create some kind of settlement for that region. To me, this is just, everything's changing quickly. Imran Khan's election in Pakistan is a big deal. It's a very big deal. It changes the game board yet again. It changes the dynamics again. And Thordoom just posted up, even Armenia wants to talk to Azerbaijan about their frozen conflict to find a way forward. Yeah, Nagorno-Karabakh needs to be settled officially. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about the region that's between Armenia to the west and Azerbaijan to the east, which Azerbaijan's borders the southern portion of the southwestern portion of the Caspian Sea. That there's a region between them, Nagorno-Karabakh, which has been kind of a frozen conflict for over 20 years, and it flares up every once in a while with the U.S.'s help. But with a stable and resurgent Russia now making diplomatic overtures and diplomatic inroads with Azerbaijan, along with Armenia, and even the color, I think that was still a color revolution in theory in Armenia. But at the same time, I also think the guy that was given the opportunity to take power, I think he quickly realized that he was going to get thrown under the bus by the Americans and the Europeans in the first place very quickly, and I think he and Putin had a quick talk, and that changed. So we'll see what happens. I think this is just fabulous for the region. I think it's fabulous for the region. I think it's fabulous for the world, because so much of the world's instability comes out of that region, comes out of Central Asia. So much of the quote unquote terrorism and the opium trade and this and that and all of it, as those people are allowed to pursue their happiness unfettered, or at least less fettered, without so much obvious geopolitical meddling by vaster powers, to keep them fighting amongst themselves, they will grow and modernize very quickly. And we've seen this before. We've seen how quickly a country can go from near complete state of collapse to a resurgent, near dominant position in the world in less than 20 years. And of course, I'm talking about Russia. None of these countries that we're talking about, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan, even Tajikistan, any of them, none of them are in a state, Uzbekistan, none of them are in a state anywhere close to the level of breakdown that Russia was when Putin took over in 2000. So, I was reading Alex Craner's book, The Grand Deception, about Bill Browder. I'm reading it now because Alex reached out to me after he read my article about the Magnitsky trio, the one that went like enormous. He reached out to me and he said, "Great article, thank you very much. By the way, I have a book. Would you like to read it?" I'm like, "Well, obviously, sure, I would love to. Thank you very much. That's a very generous offer." So he sent me a copy of it, and I've been reading it diligently, and I've been reading it when I can. So I spent most of the afternoon going through. I think I'm about 2/3 of the way through it. I'm not a particularly fast reader, and today was kind of crazy, but it's not a hard read. It's a couple hundred pages, but an hour here, an hour there. And I highly recommend it, if for nothing else than for the first third of the book, where he literally takes Bill Browder's story apart piece by piece by piece. That's worth it. And I just got through his discussions on Russia and the changes in Russia and all of that. And he brought up a really interesting point in that chapter. He said, the second Chechen War ended in 2008. Chechnya was leveled at the end of 2008. And I've talked about Chechnya before, and I've talked about the the agreement between Putin and the elder Kadyrov that ended that war. And what's interesting is Alex's book was written around March or so of 2017. So, and relayed back to the readers, it's called The Grand Deception by Alex Krainer. It's Krainer. I'll write it down. I'll write it in the comments. Hold on. Okay. And Lee Stranahan's had Alex on Fault Lines a number of times, and what I'm hoping to do eventually is to hopefully by the end of the month, I'm going to try and get set up to sit down and have a chat with Alex. We'll do a chat over Skype, and we'll do a good half hour, 45-minute chat about all this stuff, so I can clarify we can get some points clarified and whatnot. But what Alex brought up about Chechnya was that the war ended in 2008, and as I've mentioned before, and we've talked about, and he corroborates for me, is that Grozny was destroyed. That most of Chechnya was a wasteland after the war, and they've rebuilt themselves beautifully in just a decade. It's just a decade. So this idea that countries have to go through these horrible 20 or 30, these horrible protracted periods of misery, and then they can slowly begin to eke their way out of it, that is nonsense. When you get out of the way, when you don't take IMF loans, and you don't get strangled by austerity and all of this freaking crap that they're doing to Greece and the Americans did to the Russians, and if you don't believe any of that Larry Summers horse shit, the free market with a modicum of state control over the currency and everything, just modicum of some state controls. I'm not arguing that it couldn't be done anarchically, because obviously it could be, but given the world that we live in today, it makes some sense for the state to exist to fend off the other states, because they still exist. The free market is very powerful. People get back very, very quick. People recover very quickly. You watch to see how quickly Syria is rebuilt. Syria is going to be your next one, right? You listen to the neocons now. They'll once we leave, they'll be like, Syria will be a wasteland forever. It'll be a mess, like Iraq will be a mess. It's only a mess because we keep fucking with it. You get the hell out of the way, and people are brilliant. I have complete faith that they know how to leverage their time and build and rebuild quickly. And there's plenty of people who want to go in there and invest honestly in the rebuilding of these countries. And all we have to do is get the fuck out of the way. So, not worried about it. Be a great thing. All of Central Asia, this will not take 50 or 75 years. Guys, this will happen quickly. Modernization of road and rail and infrastructure and all of this stuff will happen very quickly, because you have to understand that the technology that we have now, they'll leapfrog so much of the technology that we dealt with. We're seeing this in Africa. We're going to see it all over. We're already seeing it in Central Asia and everywhere else. But just to remind you that they don't have to go through the process of laying copper all over the freaking country. They can just put up wireless towers. They want communications. Roads are cheap. Building roads are easy. We make it difficult here. God almighty. Watching the road crews here in Florida work is like, it's like watching paint dry. Cynical skeptic reminds me about Japan. They got nuked. 20 years later, they're the second biggest economy in the world. Yeah, now we did put a lot of money into Japan, but yes, they leveraged everything properly. So, it's going to be very interesting to watch this play out over the course of the next, the rest of my life. So, looking forward to it. I think that as this pushes forward, and I think that when we start to really look at that agreement, and now we start to look at what Turkey is attempting to do, and I really do believe, the more I think about this, the more I know I'm right. The reaction that I got to the article I wrote on Friday has been overwhelming. We've had the best 3 days in history on my blog. I've had over 12,000 hits and over 4,000 or 5,000 people show up. That's by far the best 3-day period ever. And it's mostly over that article. Because it was completely orthogonal to everything everybody else was saying. Everybody else is running around saying, with the chickens with their heads cut off, saying, oh my God, Turkey, they're going to have to do this. They got to knuckle under. No, they don't. Fuck you. I don't have to knuckle under. You owe the bank $1,000, it's your problem. You owe the bank $222 billion, it's their problem. We'll default. Come get us. Well, you won't be able to do business with us anymore. Fine, we don't do business with. There's no U.S.-Turkish trade turnover in the first place. Trump doubling tariffs over $1 billion of steel imports was not enough to turn the Turkish lira into the pariah currency of the world. I'm sorry, it just wasn't. So. Hold on. You've been reported the one. I don't take that at all. Have a nice day. No. It's the article I wrote on Friday called the Turkish lira contagion will jump the Mediterranean. So. Yeah, cynical skeptic understand that the United States helped rebuild Japan on its own, helped rebuild Japan. But of course, the Japanese have a tremendous work ethic. Their society was not destroyed. It's a very stable and strong society the Japanese have. In many ways, it is what saved the Russians. Putin's Putin was very smart. Okay, he immediately allowed or encouraged traditional Russian conservative cultural imperatives to flourish. Okay, it's very important. Yes, the Japanese have a homogenous society. The Russians don't. They've got it's crazy, right? It's this big, huge, sprawling thing, but at the end of the day, the Russian Federation truly is a federation of individual provinces that are all governed individually. They're all governed very differently, right? And they have to be because they're different cultures. So. It's going to be just going to be fascinating watching this play out. And Turkey has to de-dollarize itself. It absolutely has to. There's going to be plenty of money that flows into Turkey in order to stabilize it at some point. But it is going to have to pass through the eye of the needle. There's no eye of the hurricane. There's just no way around that. Okay? And if you want your independence, you're going to pay for it because the United States is going to make you pay for it. So I think it was interesting. I was sorry I was a little late coming on. I was I was reading a couple articles on Zero Hedge and, just getting prepped because we were busy all afternoon. I'm actually trying to redo my room trying to get ready to redo my room and improve the ambiance, as it were. And I was reading an article on Zero Hedge up there now. It's from one of these guys from CFR, so from the Council on Foreign Relations, explaining that the Russians really didn't ditch $85 billion worth of treasury bonds, that they only really ditched 45 or 43 or whatever, and that the rest of the money is sitting at Euroclear in Belgium and in the Cayman Islands. Well, that may be true. It's the same thing that the Chinese did a year and a half ago. They eventually sold those anyway, because eventually that money left Euroclear in Belgium, and it's sitting with intermediaries right now, and it's in a very liquid form, ready to be dumped. So if you're that's actually worse news, that the Russians haven't sold all of their treasury bonds yet. If that's the case, it just means they've got another 50 or 60 billion to sell. And I keep, and I brought this up to the woman at Sputnik this morning. I said, the Russians just dumped all their treasury bonds on the market and they got all these dollars. What are they going to do with them? This is a big pile of dollars they're sitting on. They didn't trade those treasury bonds for nothing. I mean, yeah, they probably got some Euro bond. They probably swapped them for some Euro bonds or from Yuan bonds or some other stuff. But you think maybe they swapped some of that for Turkish debt? I'm thinking to myself, hey, I got a pile of $100 billion sitting here. How much would it be worth to me to cleave the Turks from the Americans? It's 20 billion, 25 billion. It's a lot of money, but if it bails out a whole bunch of Turkish concrete and steel and road building companies to help build my pipelines and help build the nuclear power plants and the thermal power plants and all the other stuff that's, we've got contracts for. Those companies are solvent. That's a small price to pay. That's a good return on investment. Let everybody else go bankrupt. Let the guys who bought, let the guys that Unicredit their bonds, let the guys that Unicredit, whoever Unicredit bought their bonds up, let them go bankrupt. Let BBVA, let them go bankrupt. Seriously. Don't think that that's not what's going to happen here, because that's exactly what's going to happen. The Chinese are thinking the same thing. They're sitting on a pile of treasury bonds. And if you don't think that they're going to sell treasury bonds into this, into the situation that they've got brewing, which is starting to get serious. And again, we're starting to reap this kind of ugly dollar strengthening whirlwind. I've been talking about this for over a year. I'm going to continue to talk about it because we're here now. And I think this whole thing with the Turks is your is like the inciting incident for the movie. It's your 7-minute mark. It's the inciting incident. It's the thing that tells the story. It's the thing that starts the story running, right? So here's the next story. The next story is the big sovereign debt crisis that's going to engulf the world. Brazilian real just got friggin' crushed. The Argentinian peso just got crushed. South African rand is in friggin' collapse. Turkish lira is in collapse. The euro is below $1.15. Not good, technically. I mean, I can sit here and put the charts up for you, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Talked about this stuff enough times. So what's the end game here? The end game is that as everybody goes through this process and they stay away from the IMF and they don't accept austerity and they don't accept IMF bailout funds and they don't go to the World Bank for a handout with an arm out and a leg up like some friggin' $20 junkie. When you're finished, you just do trade in your currencies and you ignore the dollar. And for now, we're going to see U.S. markets be the destination for capital flight. But I can tell you that the Russians are going to be destination for that capital flight as well. No doubt in my mind. We're already seeing it. We're already seeing it. You're seeing it in the Russian stock market. You're seeing it in the Russian bond market. Don't worry about the ruble, the dollar ruble exchange rate. Who gives a crap about that? What matters is the the ruble yuan exchange rate. That's far more important to the Russians. All you're doing is making it even more attractive to go buy Russian debt, go buy Russian stocks. They're artificially depressed in price relative to the earnings potential of the companies that they represent because of currency fluctuations. It's all looking good to me. I'm just waiting for the bottom in Turkey. We're not there yet. We could be there yet. Let's have to watch the rest of August. I'm not gonna be willing to declare 1 minute. I'm not willing to say once, even entertain the idea that Turkey's out of the worst of this until I see at least weekly reversal signal on the chart, and preferably a monthly one. What's it going to take for the U.S. to pull back militarily? Do we have to be pushed back, or can we withdraw voluntarily? Good question, Harambe's Ghost. Let's talk about it for a second. The U.S. is going to pull back militarily. They're doing it now. Trump wants to pull back. The various factions within the American government do not want him to do so. That's going to be forced upon us as all of these, you see, like the Caspian Sea deal. Okay, it's just another avenue of escape for the United States. It's another way to cut off logistically what the United States' options are. Same thing with Imran Khan taking over in Pakistan. He hasn't done anything yet. Same thing with the Russians. Remember, the Russians can close their airspace to the United States planes. Certainly to the United States military, and then to commercial traffic as well. Russians have that available to them. Okay? If we're thinking about getting out of Afghanistan. The reason for that. So I think that ultimately what Trump wants to do is to pull back on the military and then use energy dominance, as Alistair Kirk has talked about it, to maintain control of the world trade markets through the petrodollar. I don't think he's going to be successful at that, but good luck to him. Will we see Erdogan capitulate or his head in the streets? I do not think we'll see him capitulate. I think we'll see capital controls eventually. I think we'll see an announcement of expanded lira yuan swap lines, right? There's already some in place. There's already a small swap line in place. I think we'll see strategic investments by China and Russia into Turkey in the coming weeks. But I think it's going to happen when it's most profitable for Russia and China, sorry. His head will not roll in the streets. Erdogan will be a martyr on this one. He has been prepping this narrative for months. He's been telling everybody that the United States is out to get him. He's been telling them for months, for over a year now, that he believes that we were behind the coup attempt in 2016. Trump has his eyes set on moon money, space bucks. Well, whatever. I do believe that they will give NATO the boot eventually, yes. Good evening. Have a great evening, Suzanne. We'll talk to you soon, love. Thank you for stopping by. So NATO will not kick Turkey out. All of this pressure that we're putting on Turkey right now is to keep them in NATO. And the longer and the more that Erdogan says no, and the more we try to press, what do you think the end result's going to be, right? The end result ultimately is that, hey, you either stop or we leave NATO. Will the CIA try another coup? Probably. This is why Erdogan's lawyers were trying to extradite or not extradite, but that's the wrong word. But interview or discuss something. I saw a thing on Zero Hedge on Friday that they wanted to go after U.S. military men at Incirlik because they believe them to be inciting unrest. We do want to expand NATO into Latin America, Juan Isaac, without a doubt. It's insane. It's insanity. So I think we'll try another coup in Turkey, without a doubt. I don't think that it'll work. The last one didn't work, and it was meant to be a complete surprise, and it should have worked. The one in 2016 should have worked. Putin tipped off Erdogan. Or Erdogan, however you. And that's the important thing. Yeah, I and if he stands up successfully to the United States here and Israel and this dude, it's immense. It's an immense statement. Okay, I don't know that he has the resources to do it without Russia and China backing him, but I can see it. It's very important geostrategically. Turkey is such a huge prize. It's the crown jewel of NATO. Let's not anybody kid ourselves. It's the key to controlling the Black Sea, the Eastern Mediterranean, most of the Middle East. It's the key to the Middle East. It's the key to everything. It's why they're in NATO. They have no other reason to be in NATO other than geography. Erdogan knows this. He's not stupid. He's not stupid. And all of the provocations between Turkey and Russia were staged by us. The Su-24 shoot down in November 2015, that was us. The guy, the guy shooting the Turkish the Russian ambassador in the art gallery, that was us. That was us, guys. Yeah, I just don't see, I keep hearing this stuff, well, the Turks are really insensitive to inflation and this and that and everything. I was like, look, they'll figure it out. But Erdogan is going to have to get control of things. He's going to have to get currency into the country. He's going to have to stop the capital flight. He's going to have to bring confidence back to the investor class. The Americans are all pulling their money out. The Europeans are all pulling their money out. And now the Russians and the Chinese have got to step in and stop it. I think it's of course I think it's a very bold statement. I don't mince words around here. I may be wrong, but come on. The whole point of moments like that were to get the Russians and the Turks at war with one another, because the guys in the CIA still think it's 1954 when the Russians and the Turks didn't like each other. They're all they're thinking historically. When Putin is the most strategically minded world leader we've seen ever. That guy's unfucking flappable. Why do you think it went nowhere? He's unflappable. You're talking to a guy who believes that most of the events that happen in the United States are false flags. They're all designed. All that horse riding. That dude is made of iron. I mean, seriously, Putin is made of is made of iron. And Trump isn't. No, it really wouldn't be. It's just the same people over and over again. I hate to tell you this, but it's really just the same people over and over again. All right, what else we got? It's 40 minutes in. What else did I want to talk about tonight? Let's talk about it's funny. Let's talk about so the latest article I have up on the blog is inviting chaos and creating martyrs. Alex Jones and Erdogan. And I just hit zero hedge and pretty much the title says it all. We're absolutely seeing the American deep state, shadow government, Davos crowd, whatever you want to call them, inviting chaos. No, it doesn't take thousands of people to create to pull off a lot of these things. It takes like one or two. It takes like a handful of people to pull off a bombing. How many people does it take to pull off a bombing? Or shooting up a nightclub, right? It doesn't really take that many people. So, but when you invite chaos like these people have over the last, and certainly the last week, it's been crazy, right? That when you invite chaos, you create martyrs. Alex Jones is going to be bigger after this. He's going to be 10 times bigger than he ever was. By going after Alex Jones, who's been telling everybody who follows him, and that's tens of millions of people, for the last 20 years, that they're coming after him. That they don't want, these fuckers, they don't want, these globalist cocksuckers, they don't want anybody to know what I'm talking about. That's why I'm here telling you. You know that. And they got all these secret cabals, and they're doing this, and they're doing that. This is all of Alex Jones's shtick, man. And then they turn around and ban him. It just feeds everything he's been talking about. It feeds all of their egos. My ego, your ego, everybody here. We all mostly believe that. For the most part, we're all in agreement that like Alex Jones is at least 70% right. He's certainly right about the globalists. We're all here. We're all living proof of that. I think they believe that they can invite this chaos and then use that fear that during the chaos to get everybody to then make people move the way they want to. I got news for you. That's not what's working. That's not what's happening. Everybody's sitting back going, oh, bollocks, fuck that. That's not what's happening here. When you go after a guy like Alex Jones, it's an act of desperation. I know you want to see my penis. It's not going to happen. Go away. This is not gold, goats, and porn. Jesus. Not that kind of old goat. All right. But, and the same thing's going to happen with Erdogan. When you attack a country and you give them an excuse to say, look at what they're doing to us. Look at what they're doing to us. It's their fault. That shit works, man. It's not my fault. Yeah, well, part of it is your fault, but it's... like the mule. Oh, did you just make a Foundation reference? I love you. God, I haven't read that story in years. Yes, I know. I love getting trolls. Trolls are awesome. Yes, they are a sign of growing, of growth. Green Penguin, that's a great question, which is, are these billionaires so old that they think what worked pre-internet will work now? I don't know, but they're insane. Alex Jones is going to take them now. I watched his Periscope from Friday night. I should have linked it. It was really good. He just ranted for like 13 minutes, but he said, about 2/3 of the way in, he's like, I don't know, about 10 years ago, I was done with this. I was like going through some family stuff, and it was this divorce and this, and I was done with this shit, and I didn't want to do this crap for the rest of my life. And then they started attacking me more. I'm like, fuck this. And we were a $10 million company then. I'm going to make it 5 times that big. And I did. It's like, now, fuck them. I'm going after them like hook, line, and sinker. We're opening offices in Berlin and Singapore and this and Tokyo. And they're going to have info wars around the fucking world. He's going to be a $1 billion company by the time he's done. I don't think we've seen peak Alex Jones. I think Alex Jones is just getting started. I think we've seen peak Facebook though, WDM. I mean, normally, dude, I agree with you about your analysis is usually like really, 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 really good. But I think Alex Jones gets much bigger from here. What? I didn't see anything about John McCain. I haven't checked my Twitter feed all afternoon. So if somebody wants to fill me in as to what's going on with John McCain. God, I hate that guy. All right. I think we've seen peak Facebook, certainly. I think when you breach the public trust, you'll never get I think you'll never get that back. I think when you pull stuff like this, oh, McSally and Ward. Okay, I don't know anything about McSally, Jen, but I do love Kelly Ward. I remember. I mean, I stumped for her on Twitter in 2016. For Christ's sake, I think she's fantastic. I mean, do you have an alternate opinion here? But a lot more super male vitality will be sold. Good for him. So. I don't know about social media dying, but I can definitely see that the current iteration of social media, the Facebook, Twitter, Google thing, I think that's reached its peak. I think we've absolutely reached its peak on that. I think people are beginning to start to take their internet persona more seriously. I think new platforms are going to continue to improve. I think we're going to see more people look for smaller communities to be a part of. We're gonna balkanize in effect. I think something like Twitter will continue as an aggregator, as a voice aggregator, because it's the micro blogging platform is still a powerful one. If Twitter's smart, they'll resist terribly. They'll resist all of this shit. Good evening, Joanne. I just noticed you were here. Mueller zeroing in on Roger Stone, right? And that might explain the platforming, the timing. Maybe. I don't know. I think this has just been in the works for a while, and they're absolutely trying to keep. They have to stage all of these events and time them perfectly in order to get maximal effect for the midterms. And every time they do this, it shows just how desperate they are, because they know the numbers. The numbers are terrible. I saw a tweet from Charlie Kirk, usually I don't like Charlie Kirk, but I saw a tweet by him over the weekend that said all of the Democrats in quote unquote red states are below 50%. They're all losing. Trump could pick up as many as 11 seats in the Senate. That's a good question. I don't know. I don't have one yet. What's a good news aggregator besides Twitter? Dorsey not revoking the exposure of InfoWars was a grand slam for him. It was smart. I mean, it was smart. Him not going along with all that was very smart. I actually give Jack Dorsey some credit because maybe he actually wants to keep his company alive. It'll actually tell you something. Actually, that might tell you more than anything else that the Saudis might be pulling their money out of Twitter, and that Twitter's going to have to actually live on its own. Maybe that's the big. Now that I think about it, maybe that's okay. You're allowed to be. As long as the troops always show up, Tillman, we're good. So. Sorry, Tillman's in the house. So I think if you really stop to think about where we are, remember at the beginning of the year, there was all that talk about how Twitter finally made money for the first time. And remember, I told you back then, this is back in January, that their Q4 was really good, and they had their earnings report, and they came out and they made money, and everybody, well, Twitter made money, and they're finally on their way. And all it was the Saudis spent a lot of money on Twitter ads to try and make it look good. Right, to goose the bottom line, because the Saudis own, what's his name? Not MBS, the other one, the other crown prince, Alaweed, and there was a W in his name somewhere. Alaweed owns a lot of Twitter, or owned a lot of Twitter. So I never expected it to last. I always expected it was just a quarter. They were just goosing the quarter, right? And now here we are in Q2 of the same year, 6 months later. And Twitter has a terrible quarter. Not only do they have a terrible quarter like Facebook, they have terrible guidance for the rest of the year. They finally started cleaning up all the bots on Twitter. They finally started cleaning up the all the sock puppet accounts and all of this shit, right? So now think about that. Now think about it. Now just pop it into my head. And now he doesn't ban Alex Jones when everybody else does. Everybody else is getting substantial amount of state money. But I think Twitter at this point has been cut loose. Google gets a substantial amount of state money. Fucking Washington Post obviously does through Amazon and Bezos. Facebook is getting state money. They're all working with, as Jones likes to point out, they're all working with Russia and China to build censorship versions, censored versions of their search engines and their content feeds and everything else. But Twitter's like kind of being left out to hang. So we might see a fundamental change in the way Twitter operates over the course of the next 6 months. And if that continues, I'd say that Twitter's been cut loose to the point where now they have to sink or swim on their own. They've got to make money now. And how are you going to make money if you go out of your way to piss off every frickin' person who's not a leftist on the internet? I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying, put it in the back of your head, analyze what you see going forward out of Twitter, and then see if it fits. I may be wrong. It could be completely full of shit. But it's one of those spidey sense things. And you know how rarely I'm wrong when my spidey sense goes on. So, all right, guys, we're right at about 55 minutes. We got anything else anybody wants to talk about? I see you WDM about Alex Jones becoming predictably anti-Iran, anti-China, pro-Israel, pro-Trump. We'll see. He's definitely anti-globalist. He's definitely anti-China. He doesn't like Iran. He has his perspective. Any other questions? Comments? Bueller? Bueller, Fry. I think that's about it then. Let's call it a show. We get out 55 minutes. It's been a long day for me anyway. I'm kind of tired. So, if you liked what you heard tonight, give a like and subscribe down below. Follow my work over at goldgoatsandguns.com. And if you really like my work, signing up over at the Patreon for either the Gold Goats and Guns investment newsletter for $12 a month, or just the private blog and twice weekly market reports for $4 a month, where I take all of this stuff and tie it directly to the financial markets. Okay. You guys take care. You have a great night. We'll talk soon. Keep your stick on the ice.